Good morning, professors, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen of the press and media, and ladies and gentlemen. We wish you all a warm welcome to Faculty of Economics and Administration, University of Malaya. It is our pleasure this morning to have Professor Abe here with us to hold the seminar entitled The East Japan Earthquake and Japanese Economy. This topic is still hot on stove, and I'm sure we are all looking eagerly to hear from Professor Abe on economics and perhaps nuclear plants, power plants. Without further ado, may I invite Professor Dekan Dr. Tan Yu Chai, the chairperson for the seminar, to lead Professor Abe to the stage. I would like to hand the floor over now to our Professor Dekan to chair the seminar.
Well, good morning. So this morning we have Professor Abe again. For those who are not here in his previous seminar, Professor Abe has been a long-term friend of the Faculty of Economics. I think his association with our faculty would date back to the early 80s. Well, Professor Abe is a very distinguished academic. He is currently a professor of economics at Fukushima University, and he's also the chief editor of this economic journal, which is highly reputable in our region, which is the Asian Economic Journal. Professor Abe has a vast research experience, being a visiting fellow of the Institute of Southeast Asian Studies, and he has held attachment positions with a number of international agencies, such as the UNSCAP, and also a number of tertiary institutions in Japan, such as the Kyoto University and Kobe University. Professor Abe received his PhD from the University of Hawaii at Manoa, and his latest publication is a book titled East Asian Economies and New Regionalism, which he co-edited with Professor Banupong of Thammasat University. Professor Abe will talk to us this morning on the East Japan earthquake and the Japanese economy. And this seminar is highly topical because a lot of people are wondering to what extent the damage in Japan from the earthquake would have a crippling effect on the global economy. Well, since the turn of the century, the global economy has become more uncertain with the more frequent appearance of the black swan. We had the dot-com bubble, we had the SARS crisis, we had the oil price crisis, we had the food price crisis, the subprime crisis, the European sovereign debt crisis, the Middle East political crisis, and of course more recently was the natural disaster in Japan. So all this means that developing economies like Malaysia will face a more challenging task in fostering economic development. Specifically for Malaysia, the Malaysian economy somehow had a trend rate of growth of 7% prior to the 1997 East Asian financial crisis. But since the turn of the century, I think our trend rate of growth is about 5%. So the disaster in Japan will potentially have a crippling effect on the global economy because it could disrupt the global supply chain, especially in the electronics and the motor vehicles industries. And that could also mean that the progress towards adoption of green policy would be hampered because now countries have to rethink about the installation of nuclear plants. I think without further ado, let me leave you to Professor Abe. Thank you. I think Professor Abe will speak for 1 hour 15 minutes.
Thank you very much for your nice introduction to me. I'm not listening 1 hour and 15 minute things. Quite likely I will extend. I plan to sit over there using remote. Then I figure out I don't have a screen in front of me. So I moved this podium. But I'm very glad that I have an opportunity to express my views and understanding about the last very, very tragic earthquake in Japan and the aftermath of it and the future of Japanese economy today with you. Before starting, may I request just a 30-second prayer for the victims of this tragedy. Well, thank you very much. I went back to Japan on March 10th, just one day before the earthquake happened. I took United flight, which was scheduled to arrive around the time of that earthquake. If I took one day after, that is March the 11th, then I don't know what actually happened. Probably I could not land. If successfully landed, then I got to stay at the airport for a couple of days because all the transportation network was, collapsed, and no hotels was available, etc., etc. But anyway, I was lucky in a way that I could avoid all these accidents. That actually happened to me in the for the Hanshin Awaji earthquake also. I came back just one day before the earthquake from Pakistan. I attended a conference, and I had a class to teach. At that time, I was a professor at Kobe University. So I told my family that I needed to get up very early, like 5 o'clock, because I didn't prepare for the class. And I intended to prepare for the class for 2 hours. The class starts 9 o'clock. So my plan was exactly leaving home 5:25, and then the Kobe Awaji earthquake occurred 7 minutes after 6 o'clock. I later on calculated where I would be. I was exactly on the highway which collapsed. So that again saved my life by one day. These are just the coincidences, but for these two experiences, I thought I got to treasure my life and I got to do my own role for the benefit of Japanese people and the world. So here I am to somewhat explain what this East Japan earthquake and the future of Japanese economy. First of all, this is map of Japan. The affected area is from around here to here. This is the Fukushima nuclear plant. And this area was a very nice coastal area which produced lots of sea resources, very nice fish and others. And this area, although it looks smooth, it has a zigzag shape, so that that would be really good for fish resources. And this area, Tokyo, Osaka are the two major industrial areas. Around here and around here. But this part was more or less forgotten place. During the high economic growth of Japan, people, youngsters, moved from this area to Tokyo. They have a very great nature, probably just like Sabah Sarawak of Malaysia. So, meantime, most of the workers came and remained in Tokyo, but when they realized the beauty of the nature, some returned back. And that called a U-turn. But still, this area was populated with the very young, either very young or very old. But when we started foreign direct investment to Asia after 1985 Plaza Accord, it became necessary for Japanese top manufacturers to relocate their factories. Two areas. One is Kyushu and the other is here. Labor cheap, environment is so good. Especially IC chip, they need good pure water to wash. Therefore, you wonder why nowadays the world is fussing about the earthquake. This area only consists of 5% of Japanese GDP, and yet so vital for the production of the important items. Like automobile, we use 20 to 40,000 parts. But if they can't obtain one or two important parts, they can't really assemble a car, finished product. So this is a really troublemaking. And that is exactly why Honda, Toyota halted their production. Not only Japanese manufacturers, but also Big Three did the same and are going to the same. According to some forecast, we might have a drop in recent 1 or 2 months, 50% down, and for the next half a year or 1 year, probably 20% down, etc., etc. So that's very serious. But anyway, having said this, and you have a concept of Japanese geography, I'll go on to explain more about the earthquake. And today I would like to talk 3 aspects of earthquake. One is the ordinary one. What's the earthquake and how we are doing? Since I'm an economist, I got to do something about it. So we will talk about more economic side. And then lastly, since I heard that nuclear power plant issue has quite an attraction to the audience today, so I'll spend some time on nuclear power plant issues. As you have observed, this tsunami was dreadful indeed. We didn't expect this. We haven't experienced all this. The magnitude was so big, the highest we've ever experienced. And tsunami, we are thinking about 2 meters, 3 meters, but according to the recent report, it was over 50 meters. Some say over 20. Some say, probably it was about 30 meters high. And actually, tsunami went inland to almost 7 kilometers. So that even a big ship was floating to 6 kilometers away from the coast. So it was a very funny scene to have a ship on top of ordinary houses. And that was possible. Even concrete, very tough buildings, they were twisted and then fell down. 3-story concrete building. And this is because the power of tsunami, especially when they came back to the sea, that was something. And then at that time, they push and pull back, but that was not push and pull back. They, like when you squeeze, something like that. So that when we check the broken building, then the iron would be twisted like that. So the nature power is really something. And next important aspect is the nuclear power plant. It was hit by tsunami, it was hit by earthquake, and electricity was out. And many tragic accidents continue to happen even today. We have food, water, air, ocean contamination. And nuclear power plant, energy, shares 30% of total Japanese power supply. So 1/3 depends upon it. Once Fukushima was down, the others still operating, and yet Japanese people's minds are already against power plant, so that in the future to come, there will be no new one, and even exist one, people will fight against the operation of nuclear power plant. And nuclear power plant was something that we need, but we do not want to have it nearby. So it's what do you call, musical chair or what? The government will give big subsidy to persuade small villages to take nuclear power plant. So that was also a pity. They depend employment, they depend subsidy and all that. So that we put all this plant to a weak and poor region. All right. And then another one, which really we didn't know this much importance we have, but damages made to part makers in this region are warning us the danger of putting all the egg in one basket. So I will explain all this. And first, let me go over summary figures. Currently, that is as of April 11 yesterday, 1 month, death toll is 13,000, missing 14,000. So this would be 27,621. But on top of it, because total village was washed out, missing means that somebody reported to police that my nephew is missing, my wife is missing. These are counted in missing toll. But if family, all of them are missing, because even city office, that was flown out, and we don't have any residence records, so we really don't know who are living there. And according to some sources, this amount is probably 10,000 or so. So that this earthquake killed around 40,000 people. This is really terrible. And we have 150 refugees who are still living in a gymnasium and the like. 221 buildings were lost, and there were 350 fires. And we realized for the first time we have quite a big self-defense force. 106,000 self-defense force soldiers were employed for the recovery and searching activities. And this was about 60% of the total force. And 20,000 or more U.S. forces, soldiers, operated in the same activities, which were not reported precisely what they are doing, but they dispatched carrier called Reagan, and from there they used helicopters and others to supply basic materials to refugees. And we collected here and there domestically and internationally donations of the amount 130 billion yen. And Lifeline, we had so many blackout, so many no water supply household, no gas, and so on and so forth. Financial institutions closed, were numbering 150. Post office closed, numbering 120. Basic transportation like Tohoku trunk line, Shinkansen, Nasu Fukushima service, I heard, scheduled to start today. But from Fukushima to Shin-Aomori, no service yet. And we don't know when we can restart this service. For industry, automobile was badly affected. Toyota starts production from April 18, but the operation level is just 50%. Electronics, many factories for IC LCD panels are damaged. So this is very, very important. Petrol also. And these are the summary statistics of the direct impacts of the earthquake. When I said direct, we have many more impacts. Indirect would be more important than direct ones. And Japan is a country we somehow welcome so many calamities. And in recent past, we had Hanshin Awaji Great Earthquake, as I explained, in 1995, and deaths and missing tolls numbered 6,400. Ise-1 typhoon in 1959 and Kanto Great Earthquake. This was considered to be the greatest in Japanese history, and it was in 1923. Death toll was 105,000. And in terms of damages to GDP, Kanto Great Earthquake was 13%. This was greatest. And Hanshin Awaji was just 2%. But area was so small. Let me see. Okay. Hanshin Awaji hit from Awaji, this is the Awaji Island, very small, to the north, up to here. Only this, and Osaka was not affected. But this time, whole area stretching something like 400 kilometers. Therefore, the impact was huge. And yesterday, or early this morning, IMF announced that impact was 3 to 5%, and the impact should be twice as much as Hanshin Awaji. But this does not include network production damages and nuclear power damages. So, safely speaking, if we include mid-term and long-term impact of this disaster, it may become equivalent to Kanto Great Earthquake of 10% or more. And government already announced the size of the potential cost of the disaster. It's much bigger. Direct damage was more than twice of Kobe earthquake in 1995, etc. I think I wrote some time ago, like 2 weeks ago, saying that nuclear power plant disaster is not included in the above calculation. If included 5% to 6%. Now that IMF announced it should be 5%, I got to revise this one upward. And quite likely, I believe, it might reach 10% of GDP. So, easy thing first, but earthquake and tsunami, how bad and how the world look at Japanese. But I got to tell you the characteristics of the Japanese. Positive side, we have less robbery and looting. Orderly in many ways. The picture behind is the victims are lining up for water and probably food, but they line up very orderly manner. They don't fight at all. And I heard that, I don't know whether this was in this case, but sometimes, we could not provide everything to everybody. And then line was very long, and people got to say, "Oh, today only after here." Sorry, but probably in other countries, people fight each other. But Japan, they understand, and then they agree to come back tomorrow, something like that. And that is true. And Japanese is a very strong national for hardship. In a way, we are enjoying the hardship. I do not know, but I feel that way. And this time, you see, many people lost houses, wealth, and then they put in a huge auditorium. But they started to live together. And it was like that after World War II. Everybody was poor. Everybody was equal. So that we enjoyed sort of a community, poor, but